A pregnant fox had chosen to make her den in Emma's backyard. Instead of being afraid, she welcomed the wild visitor, believing it was meant to be. She knew it was best to simply observe from a distance, letting the animal hunt and roam freely while she watched from her bedroom window, phone camera ready, as part of her after-school routine. The quiet companionship brought her comfort after her parents' messy divorce. Weeks later, on a crisp autumn afternoon, Emma discovered the fox had given birth to kits in the burrow beneath her grandmother's old garden shed. But the peace didn't last long. A sudden creak from the front porch signaled a far more sinister presence. A hooded figure who believed he'd found the perfect isolated target. He stepped closer thinking she was defenseless. But what happened next would leave the entire town talking. Before we continue, make sure you're following for more incredible true stories of nature's unexpected heroes. Just outside Millbrook, Vermont, along Route 100, 17-year-old Emma Chin sat cross-legged on her bed, steam rising from her hot chocolate as she gazed out at the empty bird bath below. 3 months had passed since the divorce was finalized, and the old farmhouse still felt hollow, too big for just her and Gran. At 17, she found herself caught between childhood and adulthood in the colonial home her grandmother had inherited decades ago, each room holding fragments of happier family memories. Her parents were both in Burlington now, Dad in his downtown apartment, Mom in her new condo. They alternated weekends, called when they remembered, but the gaps between felt like canyons. That Wednesday afternoon in late September changed everything. Movement in the backyard caught her eye through the maple branches. Not the usual raccoons or chipmunks, but something more graceful, more purposeful. Emma set down her mug and pressed closer to the window. There, near the weathered garden shed Gran had turned into a potting house years ago, a red fox moved with liquid elegance through the fallen leaves. The wild fox was stunning. Perhaps 20 pounds with distinctive white-tipped tail and those iconic pointed ears that seemed to catch every sound. Her russet coat blazed like fire against the golden autumn backdrop, with dark stockings on her legs and a white bib at her throat. But what captivated Emma most was the fox's behavior. Instead of darting through like the wildlife she occasionally glimpsed, this fox seemed to be settling in. Emma watched, mesmerized, as the female fox, she could tell by the delicate features compared to the broader-faced males she'd seen in wildlife documentaries, began scratching at the soft earth beneath the shed. The animal was excavating a den in the protected space Gran had always said was perfect for small creatures seeking shelter. "Well, would you look at that?" Emma whispered, her breath fogging the glass. Her first impulse might have been to call someone, but Emma had grown up in rural Vermont. This wasn't invasion, this was instinct. The fox's sides showed the subtle fullness of pregnancy, and early fall was indeed whelping season for these clever creatures. As a longtime follower of wildlife rehabilitation accounts on social media, Emma knew that female foxes sought out safe, quiet locations for their dens. Apparently, Gran's property qualified. She reached for her phone, switching to video mode. The screen lit up as she began recording. Gran would want to see this when she got back from her book club in town. Over the following weeks, Emma developed a routine. Each afternoon after school, she'd position herself at her bedroom window with homework spread around her, one eye on her assignments and the other on her unusual neighbor. The fox, which Emma had started calling Autumn in her head, seemed to accept this arrangement. Wild animals, Emma knew from her AP environmental science class, could distinguish between threat and curiosity. Autumn appeared to understand that the teenager watching from behind glass posed no danger. The videos became Emma's new obsession. She learned Autumn's schedule, morning sunbathing sessions on the south side of the shed, afternoon grooming rituals, the careful way she'd disappear at twilight to hunt. Emma never filmed the hunting, respecting Autumn's privacy, but sometimes the fox would return with evidence of success, a satisfied alertness about her as she settled into her den. "You'd love this, Mom," Emma would murmur, uploading the day's footage to a private folder. It became a way of including her parents in something beautiful, something that felt separate from the custody schedules and awkward dinners. Emma was careful to maintain appropriate distance. She knew from her environmental science teacher that habituation to humans could be fatal for wild animals. She never attempted to feed Autumn, never tried to approach. This was documentation, not domestication. A privilege to witness, not control. She'd read too many horror stories about well-meaning people creating dependencies that endangered wildlife. She kept the garbage secured, helped Gran maintain the yard, and never left food outside that might attract the fox closer to human spaces than was safe. October arrived in a blaze of scarlet and gold, painting the mountains in Vermont's famous fall colors. Autumn's pregnancy progressed visibly. Emma found herself checking her phone constantly during school, worried like an expectant sister. Was Autumn finding enough prey? Was the den warm enough during the increasingly cold nights? Then came that awful evening in mid-October. Emma woke at midnight to sounds of a terrible fight. Yapping, snarling, the crash of something metal toppling. Her heart raced as she peered out the bedroom window, but darkness concealed the backyard. The conflict, whatever it was, lasted maybe 2 minutes that felt like 20. Then stillness. At dawn, Emma anxiously scanned the backyard. Autumn was there, but something was terribly wrong. The fox lay awkwardly beside her den entrance, her usual alertness replaced by concerning stillness. Even from the second floor, Emma could see dark spots on the fallen leaves. Blood. Emma's hands trembled as she grabbed her phone. She Googled Vermont fish and wildlife emergency number, her fingers clumsy with panic. The dispatcher who answered was a woman named Lisa, patient as Emma explained the situation. "Sweetheart, can you see how badly she's hurt from where you are?" Lisa asked. Emma pressed her face to the window. There's a cut on her back leg, maybe 3 inches long. She's breathing, but she hasn't moved in 15 minutes. Emma, this is important. Is the animal responsive? If you tap on the window, does she react? Emma tapped gently. Autumn's ear flicked and her head lifted slightly before lowering again. She responded, but barely, Emma reported, her voice shaking. That's actually encouraging. She's conscious. Now, I need to be frank with you. We have a major search and rescue operation on Mount Mansfield, and our field teams are committed until late afternoon. It could be 6 hours before someone can reach you. The fox needs immediate wound care to prevent blood loss and infection. Are you comfortable helping? Emma's throat went dry. Approaching an injured wild predator violated every safety rule she'd learned. But watching Autumn suffer, possibly die, when she could help? "Tell me what to do," she said firmly. Lisa's instructions were detailed and precise. First, your safety is non-negotiable. Injured wildlife can be unpredictable. You'll need thick gloves, gardening gloves or work gloves if you have them. Long sleeves, pants, closed shoes. Move slowly and speak in low, calm tones. If at any point the animal shows aggression, baring teeth, hissing, lunging, you retreat immediately. Clear. Clear. For the wound, you need clean fabric or sterile gauze if available. Apply gentle but firm pressure for up to 10 minutes. Don't keep checking. That disrupts clot formation. The goal is to stop active bleeding until we can get a professional there. Use kitchen tongs or a long spoon to position the gauze. Never put your hands near the animal's mouth. Emma gathered supplies from around the house. Gran's thick gardening gloves from the mudroom, clean kitchen towels, the first aid kit from the downstairs bathroom. Her heart thundered as she quietly opened the back door. "Easy, Autumn," she whispered, inching forward. "I'm here to help." The fox's amber eyes tracked her approach, pupils dilated with pain and stress. Emma could see the animal's rapid breathing, probably shock. The wound was worse up close. A ragged tear that had bled considerably, likely from a territorial fight with another fox or possibly a raccoon. Moving with deliberate slowness, Emma knelt 4 feet away and extended the folded towel toward the wound. Autumn growled, low, warning. Emma froze. "I know, girl. I know it hurts, but you need help. And you've got babies to think about." Maybe it was her voice, maybe exhaustion, but Autumn's growl faded. Emma pressed the towel gently against the wound. Autumn flinched but didn't strike. For 10 eternal minutes, Emma maintained pressure, murmuring the same nonsense comfort words she used with her anxious cat. The bleeding slowed, then stopped. But Autumn looked worse, panting now, tongue visible. "Lisa," Emma said into her phone, which she'd kept on speaker. "She looks dehydrated. Common with blood loss. Can you safely offer water? Small amounts only. Use a shallow dish. Don't force it. Emma fetched a saucer of water. Autumn lapped weakly at it, managing perhaps 2 tablespoons before losing interest. That's good, Lisa assured her. Now, I need you to back away and let her rest. Check every 2 hours from a distance. We're working on getting someone there, but this rescue operation, there are missing hikers. I'm sorry. The day dragged endlessly. Emma checked every 2 hours, offering water when Autumn would accept it. The fox remained still, breathing steadily but unresponsive to Emma's soft calls. As evening approached, Lisa called with disappointing news. The mountain roads are washed out from yesterday's storm. We can't get a vehicle through until tomorrow at earliest. She needs nutrition if she's going to survive the night. Can you manage feeding? Under Lisa's guidance, Emma prepared small pieces of cooked chicken from the refrigerator. No seasoning, no bones, just plain meat cut into manageable pieces. Autumn managed to eat 4 small pieces before turning away. That night, Emma barely slept, checking on Autumn every few hours with her phone's flashlight. The fox remained in the same position, sides rising and falling steadily. Still alive, still fighting. Morning brought hope. Autumn had shifted position and was tentatively grooming her good leg. Positive sign, Lisa said when Emma called. Wild animals are remarkably resilient. Keep offering food and water. I think she's stabilizing. By the time the wildlife rescue team finally arrived that afternoon, Autumn had disappeared. The den was empty, though bloodstains and scattered gauze proved Emma hadn't imagined it all. She felt strong enough to move, the rescue officer, a bearded man named Tom, said after examining the scene. That's actually ideal. If she's mobile and self-sufficient, she'll recover better in her natural environment than in captivity. You did everything right, Emma. Emma felt both relieved and bereft. She'd grown attached to Autumn, worried about her like family. But Tom was right. Wild animals belonged wild. For 10 days, Emma saw no sign of Autumn. She maintained her afternoon vigil at the bedroom window, phone ready, but the backyard remained empty except for the usual birds and squirrels. She worried constantly. Had Autumn survived? Had the pregnancy survived the trauma? Then, on a crisp Saturday morning in early November, movement under the shed caught her eye. Autumn emerged, thinner but moving normally, the wound now a healing mark barely visible through her thick winter coat. And behind her, tumbling on oversized paws, came 3 tiny forms. Fox kits, perhaps 4 weeks old, their eyes bright and curious as they explored the world beyond their den. Emma's hands shook as she raised her phone to record. The kits were perfect miniatures of their mother, russet and cream with black-tipped ears and tails, stumbling over each other as they investigated everything within reach of their den. Autumn watched them with universal maternal patience, occasionally nosing one back when it wandered too far. Oh my God, Emma breathed, tears streaming down her face as she filmed. Look at you guys. Just look at you. For the next few weeks, Emma documented the little family's progress. The kits grew rapidly, their play becoming more sophisticated, stalking and pouncing on everything from falling leaves to their mother's switching tail. Autumn was an attentive mother, nursing them, grooming them, and as they matured, bringing them small prey to practice their hunting instincts. Emma found herself planning her schedule around their active periods, usually early morning and late afternoon. She started a nature journal for her environmental science class, documenting behaviors and development milestones. The largest kit, which she privately called Scout, was always first to explore new territory. The middle one, Sage, was the most playful. The smallest, Shadow, hung back, observing before following siblings. She knew she shouldn't name them, shouldn't get emotionally invested, but she couldn't help herself. They'd become her focus, her joy, her connection to something pure and wild in a year full of human complications. It was a Thursday evening in late November when everything changed again. Emma was at her desk working on college application essays, her laptop open to a draft about wildlife conservation. The late afternoon sun streamed through her window, and she'd been lost in describing her fox family when she heard footsteps on the front porch. Heavy footsteps. Unfamiliar. Emma looked out her bedroom window toward the front of the house. A figure in a dark hoodie was examining the porch, testing the door handle, peering through windows. Not a neighbor. Not a delivery person. Someone who didn't belong. Emma's blood chilled. Gran was at her weekly bridge game in town and wouldn't be back until after dark. The nearest neighbors were half a mile away through the woods. Her phone was across the room on the nightstand. The intruder found the spare key under the fake rock Mom had always said was too obvious. The front door opened with a creak that seemed to echo through the entire house. Emma's paralysis broke. She dove for her phone, but her shaking fingers couldn't unlock the screen. She could hear footsteps in the living room below, the sound of someone moving through the house, opening drawers, rifling through Gran's things. A sound from the backyard made both Emma and the intruder freeze. A sharp bark, Autumn's alarm call. Through her window, Emma saw the Fox family emerge from their den, but something was wrong. Autumn's posture was aggressive, her back arched, tail bushed out to twice its normal size. She was looking directly at the house. The footsteps below moved toward the back door. Emma watched in horror as the kitchen door opened and the hooded figure stepped onto the back porch, probably thinking he could escape that way if needed. From the tree line, Autumn exploded forward in a red blur. She hit the intruder's leg at full speed, her teeth finding purchase through his jeans before immediately darting away. The man stumbled, cursing, swatting at empty air as Autumn circled back. But it wasn't just Autumn. The three kits, following their mother's lead, began a coordinated harassment campaign. Scout darted in to nip at the man's shoe before retreating. Sage circled behind him, yapping. Shadow, despite being the smallest, managed to grab the loose fabric of his sweatshirt and hang on briefly before dropping away. The intruder panicked, spinning in circles as four foxes created chaos around his feet. He stumbled off the porch, fell hard on the lawn, and scrambled toward the fence line as Autumn got one more solid bite on his ankle. Emma's shock broke. She finally managed to unlock her phone and dial 911, her voice barely a whisper as she reported a break-in at her grandmother's address. "Lock yourself in a room and stay on the line," the dispatcher instructed. "Officers are en route." Through her window, Emma watched the intruder vault the fence and disappear into the woods, limping heavily and leaving a trail of torn fabric on the fence posts. Autumn stood in the middle of the yard, her family grouped around her, all of them facing the direction he'd fled. The police arrived within minutes. They found the intruder's trail easily, blood drops, more fabric, and muddy footprints leading toward the main road. A K-9 unit picked up the scent and followed it to an abandoned car half a mile away. "You're incredibly lucky," Officer Martinez told Emma after taking her statement. "This guy's been hitting rural properties across 3 counties, targeting houses where elderly people live alone, usually during their regular outings when the houses are empty." Emma said nothing about Autumn being a regular resident. Nothing about the kits under the shed. She described it as a random encounter, a wild fox family that happened to be in the yard when the door opened. The officer, city-raised and unfamiliar with rural wildlife, accepted this explanation readily. Wild animals did occasionally defend territory they considered theirs. "I've never seen anything like it though," he admitted. 4 foxes working together to chase off an intruder? You've got some serious guardian angels out there. Emma thought of Autumn, probably now checking on her kits and ensuring their den remained secure. "Something like that," she agreed. A fish and wildlife officer arrived an hour later, concerned about aggressive foxes in a residential area. Officer Chin, no relation, despite the shared name, searched the property but found no foxes. The family had melted back into the woods during the police activity. "If they're denning here, they'll likely relocate after all this disturbance," she told Emma. "Foxes prefer quiet areas for raising young. This much human activity will encourage them to move to a backup den site." That evening, after the police had left and Gran had returned to find the house swarming with officers, Emma edited the story heavily to avoid panic. Emma sat at her bedroom window with chamomile tea Gran had insisted on making. The backyard looked empty, abandoned. She missed Autumn and the kits already, even understanding why they'd needed to leave. Then, just as the first stars appeared, she saw movement at the forest edge. Autumn emerged, cautious, alert. The fox looked directly at Emma's window, those golden eyes meeting hers across the distance. For a long moment, they regarded each other, two young females who'd helped each other through danger and fear. Autumn turned and disappeared into the darkness. Emma never saw the family again, though sometimes she'd find paw prints in the garden or a flash of red disappearing into the trees. She liked to imagine they thrived deeper in the forest, living the wild life they were meant to live. The attempted burglary made the local paper, though Emma declined the reporter's request for an interview. She did, however, submit her fox videos to a wildlife photography contest, omitting the more dramatic parts of their story. The footage of Autumn and her kits won first place in the youth category and was featured in a Vermont fish and wildlife educational presentation about urban wildlife coexistence. Gran installed a security system and better locks. Emma's parents, united for once in their concern, suggested she transfer to a school in Burlington where she could live with one of them. Emma refused. She wasn't afraid anymore. She'd been protected once by something wild and fierce and unexpected. She felt her family, all of them, even the divided human parts, would appreciate the poetry of it. She kept one video saved on her phone and another framed screenshot on her desk beside her college acceptance letters. Autumn in profile, a kit playing at her feet. It reminded her that the world was full of unexpected connections, that help could come from the most unlikely sources, and that sometimes, just sometimes, the universe provided exactly the protector you needed, even if it came with pointed ears, a bushy tail, and ancient instincts. On quiet afternoons, Emma still sat at her bedroom window with her homework, phone nearby. She watched the regular birds, the occasional deer, the changing seasons, and sometimes, when the light was just right and the wind carried wild scents from the mountains, she could almost feel amber eyes watching back, keeping vigil from the forest shadows. A guardian angel indeed. Just one that hunted on four legs and sang no songs except the ancient melody of survival and fierce, unexpected loyalty. The den under Gran's shed remained undisturbed. A monument to the strange and wonderful autumn when loneliness was interrupted by new life, when kindness was repaid with protection, and when a 17-year-old girl learned that family can take many forms, even wild ones with russet coats and hearts as brave as any humans. Emma Chin never felt alone in the old farmhouse again.